I've been really liking the maps that the map creators have recently been cooking up. Now, this particular one is called Evil Heart. I have no idea if it's any good, but let's find out. This particular series was played as part of the RSL, and luckily for us, they decided to share the replays way quicker this time around. Last season, they decided to release them all in one big replay file. This time around, it's a weekly thing, which is pretty sick. So these games were played very recently. And spotting right here in the top right-hand corner of a map called Evil Heart with the red Zerg drones, we have none other than Shin and his opponent down in the bottom left with the blue Protoss pieces. We have MaxPax's. All right, now this will be my very first time seeing a game on this map. Oh no! What have they done to the Banelings? Shin, freedom! Oh geez, there's a whole lot of them. Some weird... I mean, I guess I understand why the map is called Evil Heart. Look at this! There's a burrowed infestor underwater or whatever. I don't know what's going on, man. They're putting the evil into the Evil Heart. Now, we could talk about the entombed Zerg units for a while, but let's maybe have a look around the general map layout as well. Okay, so we get golden bases, it looks like. Yeah, in the corners. Fair enough. No ramp leading up towards the natural expansion, although we get a nice little baneling right there. Just to keep everything nice and safe. This map is looking relatively ordinary. I tried finding out some more information on these new maps, but there isn't really a whole lot of it. I couldn't even find out who made this particular map. I think these are effectively just brand new ones that probably were produced for one of the map contests. But if there's no Wikipedia page or just no general info available in-game, I can't really find out all too much. So we'll just have to assume that the map is made by one of the well-known map makers. In general, most of the StarCraft 2 maps are made by a relatively small group of people that have been doing it for years. And this is looking like a relatively ordinary map, right? Nothing all too spicy, nothing all too crazy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be bad. It's just going to be probably quite standard. Either way, we're starting off with a Stargate opener. No surprise there. Shin has decided to go for a quick Zergling speed. His natural expansion, of course, well, was not made. He decided to go for the one a little bit further south. And right now, we're going to go into the hatchery right over here on the low ground. What if you could actually free the Banelings? Free the Banelings and they would become neutral units out onto the map. No one controls them. They just run in and sometimes they kill stuff. I know some of the maps have like that Ultralisk do that as well. You know the Ultralisk from the Wings of Liberty mission? Where you have to like free the base? Maybe we could have like a neutral Ultralisk roaming the map. If you kill it, you get 100 minerals. You know what? I would not mind seeing the map makers mess around with that sort of design, but I know a lot of people hate it. Either way, nice little bit of micro here coming out of MaxPax's thus far, as is to be expected. Ooh, keeps everything alive. Zerglings are not going to be able to chase this down all too easily. And that means that these adepts will probably get to retire at the third Nexus for a little while. Although I say that, maybe they will retire in death. That's what I'm planning on doing. Retiring? What a weird concept. No, they're gonna... Well, one of them is gonna live at the very least. Third Nexus coming up. Pylon right next to it. And there we go. We create a nice little save haven to be hanging out. Now, what exactly is this Oracle gonna be able to achieve? It's going around the side, but good defense thus far. It looks like without the Spore Crawler, though. MaxPax's is feeling a little brave. Okay, gets 3 workers. Took a lot of hull damage, though. I don't hate it. But obviously, you're not going to be able to regen that. Adepts in the meantime. Okay, this one is also going to be joining its long-lost sister. Twilight Council in the meantime, though. On the back of this. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Forge in just a moment. Although maybe Max wants to go for something a little bit different. No Forge thus far. Makes me think that maybe this could be like Glaive Adepts or something along those lines. Shin is going to scout right now in the main base. What will it be, Max? Well, it's going to be Blink. Is Shin going to be able to find out exactly what's happening in the main base? He will not. A little bit annoying for him. Even though 9 times out of 10 it is going to be this exact follow-up. Now the Forge comes. You're always playing a bit of a guessing game. Now, one thing that I've really liked quite a lot from Shin is that recently his gambling skills seem to have been going really nicely, where he is sometimes making a Roach Warren and sometimes he is not. Okay, in this instance, he could probably skip it, but I've noticed quite a few games where Shin decides to skip the Roach Warren only when he absolutely can, and this is one of those scenarios where it's probably an option. And then in other instances, when he's going up against like a Glaive to Depth opener, he seems to have one every single time. Either way, though, this will still be sketchy, right? You can't ever really figure out exactly what's coming up as a Zerg player. Like, even if you were to see the Twilight Council, okay, is it going to be an all-in? I mean, for all you know, it could be a Dark Templar rush. There's a lot of variety still. There's like 4 viable builds off of the Twilight Council. Now, the thing is, of course, he's playing against MaxPax's, who's quite a predictable player. One Stalker will go down. Not a lot of players do this, by the way. Stalkers here move out before Blink is done. This is something that MaxPax consistently does, but none of the other Protoss players at this level seem to copy. So he pushes like a good minute, maybe half a minute or so before Blink is finished. And it starts off that unit production for the Zerg really early on. Meaning that Shin's economy right now is really nothing to write home about. Yeah, he's got a 4th hatchery, but look at this. He's getting torn apart by a bunch of Stalkers. In the meantime, Max is following this up with Charge. He's following this up as well with the Templar Archives. My god, MaxPax is so good. I feel like this is one of those games where if you're a Zerg player, you might want to close your eyes. Because this has been going terribly thus far for Shin. Even though, like, he's not really miscontrolling it that badly, he's just not really able to catch his breath. He's just getting overwhelmed by Stalkers. This is just Stalkers. This is not even really an all-in. It's 4 gateways. It's 4 gateways on 3 base. Imagine if this was like 7 gates or 8 gates. I think actually MaxPax is winning right now. This could be game over right here, right now. Eventually, I guess Roach Speed will be done. Look at the micro. Oh, Max. How many Stalkers have you lost? 2! He's lost 2 Stalkers. Okay, make it 3. Disgusting. Oh. Yeah, the Stalkers are just not dying. The micro here has been too good. Brenda finally gets another kill, but I think we've had like 5 Stalker kills, maybe 6 Stalker kills or so for everything that Zerg has. In the meantime, a 4th Nexus G is getting cold. A 4th Nexus is building, Storm is coming up, Robo Facility. This was like the least committed push that MaxPax could have reasonably gone for that can still deal damage, and it just straight up won the game. That was almost dirty, Max. What even really happened in that game? Well, he went across the map to test the waters and then accidentally won. I hate it when that happens. How annoying. Now, to be able to reliably counter that sort of style, a lot of Zerg players go for the +1 melee upgrade really early on. So Zerglings are really strong, but you need to have that overwhelming damage coming out of them. When you have as many Zerglings as there are Stalkers, for obvious reasons, that doesn't really work out all too well, and I feel like MaxPax is always very good at detecting the flow of the battle there. Sometimes you will see him backing up when Zerg does have units before that point, and he realizes, okay, you know what, this is gonna go south the longer that the game goes on. But I really feel like the key with that Stalker push from MaxPax is that he actually goes out across the map before Blink is done. So rather than fighting a Zerg with, at the very least, like 66 workers, so full 3-base economy, sometimes they go up to like 70 or so before they start making actual army. MaxPax is effectively playing off of a superior work account. So I think in that previous game, there were like 61 drones available for Shin, whereas MaxPax was fully saturated on 3 bases. It doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but it just basically means that the more value you gain with your Stalkers, the further you get ahead, and, well, sometimes the snowball will go in your favor. So let's see. Where do we go from here? MaxPax, by the way, I feel like across the board, he really impressed me a lot like a half year or so ago, and Obviously, he's still, if not the very best Protoss, like easily top 3. But he's not quite as dominant, and I wonder as to maybe like he's a little bit frustrated that a lot of the very large StarCraft 2 tournaments this year were all offline. So as you may be aware, MaxPax's doesn't travel to offline tournaments. He's never come out as to why he doesn't, but he only ever competes online. And I feel like for a little while, maybe he took like a little bit of a break, or at the very least, he didn't play as much. Allowing players like, for example, Classic, players like, for example, Hero to inch closer and closer to how good he is. Because for a while, I think it was pretty clear that MaxPax's was the #1 Protoss on the planet, and that he was the one that everybody should probably be copying. But that previous game, well, it gives me very strong vibes again that maybe we can get back to that level. Because I have not seen Classic or Hero win a game off of just 4 gateways like that in a while. At the very least, not against Zerg. Usually against Terran, that's a viable strat. But I think against a Zerg player, well, 4 gateways is about the bare minimum. Let's see. MaxPax's is going to be adding on the good old Oracle. No surprise there. And I'm wondering if Shin is maybe going to be making any changes. So if you want to go for a quick Evo chamber, you could plant it down at like 3.5 minutes or so. The timing seems to be quite random. At the very least, it doesn't seem to be decided too much on the in-game clock. Possible that the players actually wait until a certain amount of workers. Obviously, though, you would have to add the drones back in gas, which he does right now. If you make the Evo chamber when you have about 30 gas in the bank, it will finish up right when you have about 100, when you're mining with only 3 drones. So maybe that's what he decides to do. He would have to build it right about right now. No, he's not doing it. Okay. So I have to see what sort of changes MaxPax's is going to be facing off against this time around, because otherwise I'm sure he would love a repeat. 2 drones. He had 3 in the previous game, but this time around, of course, he ended up engaging very close right there to... Oh, there we do go for an Evo chamber. Okay. He ended up engaging very close right there to the Spore Crawler. Spore Crawler hits very hard. Twilight Council right now, though, for Max is again going to be his weapon of choice. And right now, of course, he's got some real potential to go, for example, into Glaive Adepts or something along those lines. Big influx of Zerglings, though, and this is a commitment here from Shin that I really don't love. The problem is every 2 of these links could have been a drone. It is going to be +1 melee, so... Yeah, Shin is not looking for a repeat of the previous game, and you know what? My god, Loco. I'm doing such a good job pretending like I know what I'm talking about. Very nice. It is indeed going to be Glaives, and it is indeed going to be +1 melee. Let's see. Where do we take this game from here? It's one of those weird moments where both units kind of counter each other. This is a great start now, though, for Shin. Like, the more damage, like, the lower he gets that... Oh, he doesn't kill the Adept. Weird. The less Adepts are going to be out on the map, the better, of course, it's going to be for him. He decides to go for a Baneling Nest as well. So he's seen the additional Warpins, and it's always a question, right? Is Protoss just trying to make some more Adepts here for the base defense, or are they trying to stay alive in the game? Are they trying to, like, I don't know, maybe just keep their 3rd base going, or are they actually going for an Adept switch? Against an Adept push, though, I think Baneling Nest makes a lot of sense. So he's going to be able to get +1 melee done. He is also going to get the Banelings out by the time I think that the Dark... Oh my god, that the... that the Adepts go out. We have a Dark Shrine added into the mix right here for Max. Shield Battery, though, is going to just get targeted here. It's a little overly ambitious by Shin. It's important not to overcommit. But this is going to be Glaive Adepts into Dark Templar. MaxPax's decide to course correct entirely here in the second game. The first match looked pretty easy, and now he's effectively saying that he's willing to put it all on the line. +1 melee, though, look, seconds away from being done. And I don't know if he's seen the Banelings. Well, he sees them right now, that's for certain. Oh, clump them up, clump them up! New Zerglings are just about to pop out of their cocoons. And while I don't think the drones really should be fighting, no, he just pulls them for a moment. This has been a very good game so far here for Shin. The only problem is, of course, that economically speaking, he's not in that great of a position, but he's going to be able to solve that here in just a moment. Now that the Protoss army has disappeared, he can do whatever he likes. 4th hatchery is done already. The main question right now becomes, how much damage can the Dark Templar deal? Are we even really going to commit to it? Shin, of course, is looking at a big attack here in a moment. He's a big fan of those, like, mid-game Hydraling Bane busts. He does this against a Protoss player that did not have this bad of an early game, so he does this all the time against Protoss players where even if he's behind, he still feels like he can pull it off. At this stage, he is certainly in a more comfortable position than the Protoss. So I think it's a very safe assumption that Shin is going to try and do a Hydra bust. Adepts try to swoop in. Cancel on that one. Adepts are in the meantime also on the right though. And MaxPax's trying to claw his way back into this game. And obviously he's not in a terrible position. Just one where tempo-wise, momentum-wise, he's not in a great spot. But if you can buy enough time for example, Storm to be out. If you can get a real buffer in front of those units too. I wouldn't mind seeing like, I don't know, for example, Charge or Blink starting up. Always a bit of a difficult decision, though, because if you invest a ton into tech... I don't like this shade, actually. I feel like this shade could have been avoided. In the meantime, the Adepts also get caught on the Watchtower. Okay, and that means that Protoss is basically no longer present out on the map. And I believe that allows Shin to go fishing. We're going fishing with Hydras, Banelings, and Zerglings. I think we should go, Shin. Why are we patrolling? Where are we going? Yeah, no, we gotta go. I think he was waiting just for the muscular augments to finish up. Now more Banelings are also joining in the fray. Storm is gonna be done in time. And there will be about 7 High Templar here, which is quite a lot. The Storms are gonna have to be picture perfect. First one's good. Second one, also good. Third, I mean, not bad. Fourth? Fifth? Okay. Now that the High Templar, though, are mostly drained of energy, I think there's just too many Hydras here. I mean, Storm is real good, though. Don't get me wrong. But the Nexus itself goes down. No charge available here yet. Reinforcing Zerg units are going to come across the map. And obviously, well, there's not going to be an infinite amount of energy on those Templar. At this point, as a matter of fact, we have no Templar anymore. So I think Shin can just continue holding down the unit production buttons and... yeah. Send in the swarm. Great game right here by Shin. GG. And that means that this series comes down to Cenotaph. Cenotaph? Cenotaph. Google Translate.
Cenotaph. Cenotaph.
Cenotaph. Alright, excellent. Now, we've seen this map once before in a previous series. It's a nice and colorful map, right? This is a map where the sun shines. I sometimes wonder if it's a little bit too bright, though. I know I complain about maps being too dark. We do have God Rays. Look at those. Oh, it's Shin versus... oh, actually, no. I mean, you can kind of see them as well on the other side of the map, but I feel like they're more... oh, no, they're over here. MaxPax's. Okay. Anyways. Probe Scout goes across the map and Max indeed. Really? He just sent it to the worker, or he sent it to the base over here first. Makes me always wonder if he, like, misread where the main base of the opponent was, but I think he was just checking if it was going to be possibly a third base first. I do kind of like their rays, actually. Look at those in the main. It's kind of pretty, isn't it? Okay, I take it back. Now, this map has this feature right over here in the very middle. So this is a healing shrine and a Xel'Naga watchtower all at the same spot. The rocks can be killed from the high ground and then collapse on top of this spot in the middle, which will destroy the watchtower, but not the healing shrine. After which the rocks in the middle can be destroyed, and then the healing shrine once more becomes accessible. There's about a 16-layer plan right over here. This is like a lasagna. The lasagna map. Or onion. Or ogre. Ogre. It's the map with the ogres on it. Anyways. Shin trying to get a scout off on the other side of the map. Going for a little bit of a coin flip in the previous game, right? He played that very well, but I also feel like the strategy that he chose for, the strategy that he decided to go for, it played really well into what MaxPax's happened to be going for. And in a very real way, that was MaxPax's flipping the script a little bit. I feel like MaxPax's sometimes gets criticized a bit for being too predictable, because he's a big fan of just playing that Stalker build that we saw him go for perfectly in game number 1. I would imagine we're going back to that right now, but he decided to give a more aggressive push a shot. Didn't work. Now we're back to the drawing board, and I would imagine we're going to go into that good old tried and true strategy. Oracle? Yep. Adepts are going to be here. And across the board, this map is also nothing all too crazy. It's nice though, right? I feel like every time we get new maps in StarCraft 2, it's like a breath of fresh air. Honestly, for me, we could change map pools like 3 times as frequently. Now, that would be a lot of maps to be cycling through. And actually, I've heard this complaint sometimes from viewers, that every time they watch, which admittedly I guess they don't do all too often, but I've heard this complaint from viewers that like every time they watch, there's like a new patch and there's like new maps available and it's hard to keep track of everything. There is an argument to be made for running everything for a very long time, but I personally disagree with it. But sometimes people like to make the comparison to like regular sports, right? And like how frequently, I don't know, do the rules in football change? Or, you know, like you cannot follow basketball for years, watch a game and still understand what's going on, right? With most esports, there's quite frequent changes. Nice snatch right here on these adepts. It's going to be Twilight Council here again, no surprise. I would imagine we will be going into Blink here. Shindo opening up with the good old +1 melee. I wonder actually if he opens up +1 melee, if he skips out the Roach Warren every time. Because you can certainly still make a Roach Warren even when you go for the +1 melee upgrade. But I wonder if this is like coinciding with him skipping out on that. Oracles are going to be needed at home to try and defend the 3rd Nexus. There's indeed Blink, no surprise. Forge right next to it. Man, Rock Towers and Zalnaga Towers, right? They really have become best friends over the last few years. So again, you can destroy the rocks, which will then destroy the Zalnaga Tower. Maybe they're not great friends. Maybe good friends crush each other, though. I don't know. I don't know how it works. StarCraft society is weird. Anyways. Oracle looking for a little bit of an angle. Can't quite find it. One thing that MaxPax's always does, I feel like we rarely ever see this, MaxPax's never really loses his early game oracles. There is a healing circle in the middle. Flying units are not exempt, so I wouldn't mind seeing the Oracle dive into the center circle for just a moment and dip in a little bit of additional health. 4th base, though, coming up over here on the left. And I think soon we will begin the dance. Now, look at this. We're doing it off of 5 gateways this time around. So, in the first game, we did it off of 4. He's going to go up to 6 even. Different unit composition, though, from the Zerg. But rather than 4 gateways, we're doing the same thing off of 6. It means that the 4th Nexus is likely going to get delayed for a while, and the push will be a lot more all-in-y, I suppose. Like, MaxPax's is going to be looking to deal significant amounts of damage with this. He will now notice, though, when he clicks on the Zergling, that they have +1 melee. So you can read what your opponent's upgrades are, and at this point, I'm about 99% certain that MaxPax's will have clicked on one of those links and figured out what he's going up against. I wonder if that's going to make him deviate from plan at all. Shin, by the way, indeed skipping out on the Roach Warren here. So maybe every time he goes for +1 melee, he skips out Roach Warren in the current meta. I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to keep an eye out on that. Might be a bit of a read. But again, we're going +1 melee into +1 missile. So it is going to be Glass Cannon Zerg going up against Protoss with an insane amount of damage per second. I don't really like, actually, what MaxPax's is doing here. Maybe the original plan was to be the aggressor. Try to see if you can finish the game with 6-gate Blink Stalker. Now he's going up to 10 gates. 10 gates, a 4th Nexus, and Storm. I think he's almost baiting the opponent out. I don't believe that the 4th Nexus here is really meant for mining. I mean, obviously, if he gets it up and running, that would be a nice little bonus. Council here has been forced, but this may very well trick Shin into thinking that the setup is better for him than than it truly is. I mean, there's no workers to be transferred to that base anyways. MaxPax's only loses about 1 Zealot's worth whenever he cancels the Nexus. We have a big drop, though, coming in. Shin only on 63 workers, MaxPax's at 70. He is starting to slowly trickle in some more units, and this Zealot Scout over here is massive. He's going to be able to intercept this. I would imagine the Protoss is likely going to be taking a hit as well over in the 4th base immediately, but it's not like he's mining off of 4 bases himself. So I think you can just cancel this and be okay. Then again, though, do you really need to? There's a lot of High Templar available. Archon in the front as well. Storms all over the sides. I feel like the High Templar maybe need to be protected a little bit better because they're hugging the Hydralisks. Nexus is indeed gone, and there's the additional Protoss units joining in, and so is the rest of the Zerg. Shin does have a nice little supply advantage, and he is swooping in around the side. Stalkers will just barely be able to blink to at least the relative safety here of the Nexus itself. Energy recharge on the High Templar would be an extremely good play right now. There we go. Getting some additional storms onto those Zerg units is big. In the meantime, by the way, those Overlords, well, that's where those Lings came from. Oracle swooping around the site. Those are the ones from the early game, and they will be dying here eventually. Additional Zealots getting warped in as well. Shin did lose some of his drones as well at the same time at home, but he is starting to break through this right now with Hydras, and there's the Prism going down. Man, that was an extremely close game. It's one of those situations where if Shin does not win right then and there, like, it's game over. Like, there's pretty much no way he's going to be able to macro his way out of it. The High Templar being that far forward near the 4th Nexus and being that almost like married to the base was, I think, MaxPax's biggest misplay. It's one of those situations, right, where Shin had a 4th and MaxPax had a 4th, so both of them sort of believed that they were able to fake it out on the opponent's side of the map and make them believe that they are playing the big macro game, but then neither of them were actually playing the macro game because the 4th was just to bait out aggression from the opponent. It's one of those weird situations that is difficult to read when you're actually playing the game. But Shin getting the upper hand this time, winning twice in a row, playing the good old +1 melee opener.